Newsroom. Many times over the past 2.5 years, this show has been the forum to stop and take a snapshot of the Arab world. With the return of the military in Egypt, the long wait for Tunisia's constitution, and Syria's descent into sectarian chaos, it's again time to take that snapshot, but this time from another perspective, that of women. Are they more empowered now than they were 2.5 years ago? After the ouster of long-time strongmen in places like Libya and Tunisia, strongmen who were staunchly secular, what policies, what role for women? More broadly, what is the trend in Arab society? Today in the France 24 debate, Women and the Arab Spring. With us, Jordan's Minister for Social Development, Reem Abu Hassan. You're, I guess, a newcomer to politics because you were a human rights advocate and attorney. And do you feel, what's it like making that switch to, okay, now you're part of the government team? Is it a difficult switch to make?
It is difficult in the sense that the expectations are different, the aspirations are different, and definitely the challenges are more severe than they appear to be from the outside. Is
it frustrating? Like you have to watch what you say a little more and this kind of thing?
The idea, I think, of being accustomed to consultation with the parliament on a daily basis, the issue of really a new trend in the country has been established with the issue of having a parliamentary government, and that in itself, for a human rights activist and a lawyer, you feel that you are part of a team and that you cannot really be outspoken as much as you want to be.
All right. She did a lot of her growing up in London, but since the fall of Tunisia's longtime strongman, she's no longer in exile there. The spokesperson for the ruling Ennahda party, Yusra Hanoutchi, is the daughter of the Islamist party's founder, Rached Hanoutchi. And Yusra, I guess the question I have to ask you is, when you went back to Tunisia for the first time in 2011 after the fall of Ben Ali, what was it like?
It was something we had dreamt of for 22 years. I had left Tunisia as a young child and hadn't been able to go back, as well as the rest of my family. Wasn't able to be in contact with anyone in my family. And after the revolution, we were able to go back. It was obviously very emotional, a very happy day, but the beginning of perhaps a more challenging phase in Tunisia's history.
A more challenging phase. And of course, later I'll be asking you if the Tunisia that you saw on that day back in 2011 is the same Tunisia that you're witnessing now. Also with us here, she is a political refugee here in Paris. Lina Al-Shawaf runs Radio Rosanna, a radio station run by Assyrian exiles. You describe how you were an executive at a private television station in Syria, and just after the uprising began in your country, authorities came to you and said, this is the propaganda that you have to play on your station. And
yes, actually, I was working in private media, radio private media. But when the revolution began, we have asked from many different positions from the regime that we have to do the same as they did it in the local or the public media. So that's something we refused because
was it an easy decision to refuse, or did you have to go home and have a long, hard think, knowing what the implications might be the ones that...
No, for me, it's like right away, no.
Right away, no. There was never a moment of hesitation.
For me, I couldn't even think about it because I know what really happened in the street. I saw it. They are my friend, and I know how they went to the street to just ask for their freedom and their dignity. So I couldn't do it and lie and in the media or on the journalism. It's something you can do it as a journalist. So that's something I didn't think about it. It's right away, no.
All right,
and actually, I didn't accept that this will be the reaction. The reaction, it was very, for me, shocked because before that, I'm not a political person, I'm just a media person. And when they act like this and like they treat me and they try to like throw me out of my work in many different way. So it was shocked for me, the reaction.
So it's interesting. So you didn't see yourself as a politics junkie, as many journalists do, and suddenly
I am not a politician.
It was forced upon you.
Yeah.
Also with us, journalist Sonia Tarab. You are published your first novel, which is shows a bit the contradictions of today's youth in Casablanca. It's called how would you say
Chamablanca.
Chamablanca,
Yes.
the French way.
Yeah.
That novel, in it, you describe the contradictions of growing up in an urban place.
Yeah, exactly.
In the Arab world today.
And it's a contradiction because I'm describing some particular part of the Moroccan society. It's like some people, when they finish their high school studies, they come abroad to finish their study, then they work, and then they come back to their country. So it's what I call the cultural reverse shock, because when you come back, you find that you don't really know who you are exactly, because you grow up in Morocco, but then you become an adult in like France, in Paris, and you've been used to a certain amount of freedom, for example, and then you come back, and that's the time you realize who you are and what's your reality and how to cope with it. And this is about this young woman who is like 26 and coming back to Casablanca and hating it. Like the whole book is like, I hate it.
And was that your personal experience?
It's my personal experience, but it's also like I was in this situation, but I choose to come back to France. But some people, they just have to stay there, or they choose to conform to the society, like to do what they have to do to be well. And the thing is that Shama, like my main character, it's not she's revolting, but she's not acting, and it's all about this. Like you it's not sufficient to revolt. Like you can just go back, or you do something.
It's not enough just to be
angry.
To be angry. Also with us, her casework as a legal consultant and a French human rights lawyer takes her all over the Mediterranean and beyond. Céline Bardet, welcome back to the France 24 debate.
Thank you.
And I guess I'll put to you the question. You've been to places like Libya, like Jordan, in the 2.5 years. And I guess I could ask you the question that we put today to the viewers on Facebook and Twitter, which is, do you get the feeling where you go that people are more or less empowered than they were when the uprisings began?
People are women.
Women.
People in general, I think it was interesting what you said about, it's not enough to be angry. When you look at post-revolution, for example, in Libya, during the revolution and the falling of Gaddafi, women were very much involved. And actually, we don't talk that much about that, because at the end, most of the time, you see men. I met women who were chief of Katiba during the revolution, and we don't see them. Actually, I think they don't want to be seen. But the question is now, for example, in Libya now, with the discussion surrounding the constitution, women, they try to get part of that. They try to get empowered, but it's extremely difficult. And it's still difficult, and I think it's a long process. So they need support, they need to be empowered, and this is what I'm working on in Libya in particular.
We have a comment on Twitter that came to us from Derek saying, as I see it, Arab/Muslim women are now more involved in demonstrations, but still kept out politically. Yusra Hanouchi, do you agree with that statement?
Absolutely not. And obviously, I'd like to focus on Tunisia, because that's where my experience lies. In Tunisia, it is true that women took part alongside men in the revolution, but after the revolution, they continue to take part in all fields, and in politics, they are completely participating in all fields. We have in the National Assembly, the elected National Assembly, which is tasked with the task of writing a new constitution for Tunisia, as well as legislation and really managing the democratic transition in Tunisia. We have almost 30% women represented, elected women in this assembly, which is higher than France, the UK, America, and I think most of Europe. And this is true in other fields as well. There is still a lot to be done in politics, in the area of representation of women, and that is true of countries that are not part of the Arab Spring or part of the Arab region altogether. That is a challenge that continues for these countries and for the rest of the world.
30% of women in parliament, but I'm sorry, Yusra, and I'm going to put this actually as well to Rima Bouhassan. We did a bit of checking of our own, and 3 seems to be the magic number for Jordan, Tunisia, and Egypt, 3 being the number of female cabinet members. It seems as though the glass ceiling does not extend too much to the level that you're at.
Actually, you're right. 3 is the magic number in these 3 countries. But the idea, I'm always a believer that if you want to change the issue of gender and women's empowerment, you don't look at posts that are appointed. You look at middle management, where a woman assuming a role of a decision maker can change perception and can change stereotypes about women. And I believe that in a country like Jordan, ministers are appointed, while members of the parliament, the House of Representatives, are elected. And in that house, we have 18 women out of 150. 15 were elected by the quota, and 3 were elected on their own merit. And this is where the attention should be, because, I mean, a representative of the people are hopefully going to form parliamentary governments in the future.
And it's a question, obviously, that we ask too, because we have these debates about here in France. Yusra was pointing out that women are not well represented, be it in the French Parliament, although now in the cabinet they are because it was enforced. Do you feel as though you're part of a quota, or do you feel as though you're there on merit?
I think a combination of both, and I'm frank about that. I hope I do represent Jordanian women, and at the same time, I am a specialist in the issue of social policy and development. So I have that aspect too. And I think we aspire for the day where women are chosen, appointed, elected on their own merits. But the idea of credibility and professionalism is also important.
Sonia Tarab, is this just symbolic, or does it matter, this issue?
No, of course it matters, but like in my opinion, Tunisia is a particular case because they have a strong regime, but this regime gave right to women, educates people. So when they make the revolution, like women had already the rights, they went to school. It's not like Morocco, you know. So they already like have what we don't even have now, you know. That's why, for example, in Morocco we have, I think, less. I don't want to say something wrong, but they are not in politics. But it's not a problem of quota or discrimination. We have to see to look to the big picture. You know, like in a country where 50% is illiterate.
Yusra, listening to Sonia looking with envy at the legacy of this that Tunisia has on this score, would you say that this is a positive part of the legacy of the founding president Bourguiba and his successor Ben Ali?
I think, yes, women in Tunisia and men had enjoyed certain rights that others had not enjoyed. But I think there is a myth surrounding, how perfect the situation was for women or men in Tunisia. Yes, education and literacy is higher in Tunisia, but sometimes we have the myth that it is, the highest in the Arab world. That is not the case. And there are many problems in relation to the situation of women that existed previously before the revolution. However, no one talked about it. Obviously, the media was muzzled, so no one could talk about it. Also, politically, the question of women and women's rights were exploited and instrumentalized by the government and no one within Tunisia or outside Tunisia focused on some of the areas that need improvements, whether it is to do with education or access to politics or access to even adequate healthcare for rural areas. What we have discovered after the revolution is that there are many areas where women continue to suffer greatly, more than men, as well as the problems that are shared with men. Obviously, we know injustice, corruption, etc. But in the rural areas in Tunisia, women don't have equal access to adequate healthcare, to even water facilities. And these are areas that need more attention. However, also I'd like to add that it's not a direct consequence that once you have even 100% literacy and high education, that will mean equal access to politics. And as I mentioned previously, in the rest of the world, in the non-Arab world, women are not equally represented in the political field. So yes, education is important, but it's not the only problem that leads to lack of representation of women.
Céline Bardet, you were mentioning a minute ago about Libya and the women who were, during the moment of the uprising, the revolution, in charge of those, I guess you could call them councils or militias, the katibas they're called.
Yeah.
And what's happened to the ones you say who are no longer at the forefront there, no longer the visible face of...
No, but I think, linking to that, what is being said and what you said, it's also a question of, still, I think it's a question of being educated and all of this, because when you have that, exactly, things are easier. This is also a question of how to empower women, and also women encounter specific, issues. And when it comes to this issue of Katiba, the example of Libya, in fact, women, they are active, but in the shadow. So I think there is an issue of culture and mentality. There is also an issue of women, because they don't dare yet, maybe, or they don't want to be on the upfront. And so it's very complex. So I kind of agree with what you were saying, because it's more complex that quota, the issue of quota, of course, I have no opinion on that, for example. It's complicated, but on the other hand, it works. So, do we, the issue of being for or against quota, I don't even have an answer myself. But you need a myriad of things, to empower women, because this is what women need. They need to be empowered, to have access to things, so to have access to politics, economic, to be leader, etc.
And if there's one place we know of right now where they don't have access, it's of course Syria. We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.